In 1988, a children's program hired a man to play their mascot. He wore the costume for 11 months straight. No one ever saw his face again. The show ran out of a regional studio, the kind with 3 cameras, 1 control room, and a budget that never stretched past local advertising. The mascot was supposed to rotate between 3 part-time performers. After the 3rd week, only 1 man ever wore it. His name was never released to the press. Payroll records, when they surfaced decades later, listed him only as performer. Crew members called him the suit guy. He arrived before anyone else, sometimes hours before call time, and he left only after the building was locked for the night. At first, it was just dedication. Producers praised his commitment. He never missed a taping, never asked for a substitute, never complained about the heat inside the costume under the studio lights. Then crew noticed something stranger. He wouldn't remove the costume during breaks. Not for lunch. Not for the summer heat that made the soundstage feel like an oven. One producer, interviewed years later, said he never once saw the man's face, never saw him eat, and never saw him drink water, not in 11 months of 5-day shoots. Then the tape started showing something the live studio audience never saw. On playback, in rooms that should have been empty between takes, the costume moved when no one was performing. A camera operator reviewing B-roll noticed the mascot standing motionless in the corner of an empty hallway, in footage shot after the crew had already gone home for the night. The show's final director, in a recorded interview years later, said the man was let go after refusing a mandatory wardrobe inspection required by the network's new safety policy. He simply would not allow anyone to open the suit. When wardrobe finally did open it during a scheduled maintenance check after his departure, there was no one inside. The costume had been folded and stored exactly as it should have been. No sign it had ever been worn that day at all. The costume itself outlived the controversy. It sat in prop storage for 2 more years, technically still property of the studio, waiting to be reassigned to a new performer who never came. Then, in a fire that investigators could never fully explain, the storage room burned. Insurance records list the cause as undetermined. Everything else in that room was catalogued and salvaged. The mascot costume was the only item reduced to nothing. No footage from that night has ever surfaced. But 3 former crew members, in separate interviews conducted years apart and never aware of each other's accounts, described the exact same recurring dream. The suit, empty, hanging on a rack in a hallway that doesn't exist in the studio anymore. And somewhere behind them, always just out of sight, footsteps, in shoes that don't belong to anyone standing in the room.